Yes, I baked everything that's in the thumbnail. Am I proud of all of them? No, no, I'm not. I wish I didn't have to include everything in the thumbnail, but I wanted to share all of the baked goods, especially the breads, with all of you, even the ones that weren't that great. Hi everyone, I'm Kelly. If you didn't watch my last video, my goal this year is to not buy bread from the grocery store. So basically I'm doing a lot of baking this year. And in this video, I'm gonna show everything that I made in January and also a couple of weeks into February. And at the end, I'll do a little progress report for if I am on track with my goal for the month of January. And then I'll do something similar at the end of every month. So there are a few bakes that I consider like stretch goals for me. Like they're within reach, but they're still kind of intimidating, or like very intimidating. The first are croissants, or like kouign-amanns or danishes. Basically that whole family of like flaky, buttery, laminated pastries. And second are bagels. And I don't know why bagels seemed intimidating because I was able to successfully make them, but I think maybe because you need to like proof them just enough so that they float when you boil them. And I think just this thought of them not floating was kind of scary for me. My first two attempts were back in December. The first one was a sourdough bagel from a recipe that I got on YouTube. Will these float? I don't expect them to, but here's to hoping. Oh! I'm so happy. That one turned out pretty good, but Anthony preferred if it didn't have the sourdough flavor. So I converted that recipe to one that uses active dry yeast. And I think I like overproofed or over fermented the bagels or something, because one of them had like this big air pocket that you could kind of see. I don't know if that's because of overproofing or over fermenting, or if maybe I just like didn't pop a bubble when I shaped the bagel. The third attempt was officially part of this whole like no grocery store bread goal, and I still did not master the bagel. It was another yeasted bagel, but some improvements that I will remember for next time are with shaping. So these ones were a bit wonky with its shape, so I think I'll pre-shape them into rounds and then let the dough rest, and then after a few minutes try shaping them into the actual like bagel shape. Also, the crumbs seem too tight on this one. I need to get it to be nicer and airier and fluffier. We're moving on to one of my most disappointing bakes. It's not my worst bake ever. My actual worst bake were these sesame balls that were basically inedible. Ooh, they're good. Cheers. Oh my gosh, they feel rock hard. I haven't even been into mine.
This is gross. This is terrible.
0 out of 10. So this was not on that level, but it's like pretty low on the list. So I don't have any footage of the process because this was like before I decided to document all of this on YouTube. But basically my plan was that I would make the sandwich loaf dough, which used yeast, active dry yeast, the night before, and then let that sit in the fridge overnight. And then once I come back from work, then I would bake it. But when I came back from work, I think it might have overproofed or like over fermented because it was pretty flat. I made a last minute decision, like people do in Bake Off, to remake the dough. I just had a little bit of time between like coming home from work and picking up my daughter. So I made the dough and then it rose while I was picking her up, and when I was like prepping the rest of dinner. Thankfully I did, because that loaf that I made that same day turned out way better and it looked promising, but the mistake that I made was that I didn't let it cool before baking, and basically like it came out of the oven and I sliced into it immediately. But with bread, you want it to fully cool before slicing into it, because according to Google, waiting for bread to cool before cutting. It allows the internal structure to set, resulting in a firmer, less gummy crumb and better overall texture. Basically what happened was we cut into it, it was still warm, and the bread looked like a sandwich, but then just like completely fell apart and like disintegrated, it felt like. But yeah, I like took all those lessons and did a redemption bake with a different recipe, and you can see that in my previous video. Okay, now on to a good successful bake, which is a trusted recipe that I've made multiple times. And of course it's from the one and only Claire Saffitz, who I trust. Any recipe that she puts out, I trust. So this is also from her book, Dessert Person. I love this one because it's also something that you can make on a weekday. Basically this one, I started the dough the evening before we were gonna eat it, and then let it ferment in the fridge overnight. And I think she recommends like 16 hours max that it's in the fridge, but I pushed it a little bit, and I figured it would be okay because since they're flatbreads, like I don't need it to be at a certain height in order to eat them, or like in order for it to serve well as a flatbread. So I pushed it and it ended up being okay. So after work I cooked them and then made some butter chicken. That's like a good combo that we love to have with these flatbreads. Is the bread good? Is baking powder. More bread? Yeah? So as part of this whole like no grocery store bread challenge, there are 4 breads that I wanted to master because these are ones that we usually go to the grocery store for. 1 is a sandwich loaf, 2 is a hoagie roll, 3 is a hamburger bun, and 4 is a banh mi bread. And today I attempted a banh mi baguette. And the one that I like is like fluffy on the inside and has like a very thin and crispy crust. Like when you break it, it's basically just like an eggshell. And from researching on YouTube, a way you can kind of get that thin crust is by using dough improvers. So they're like these special ingredients that I don't have. So I tried a recipe and did not include all of those dough improvers. I don't think they turned out this way because I didn't have the dough improvers, but I was not happy with the size of these baguettes. Basically, they were kids menu banh mi. It still worked as a sandwich bread, but I need to improve the size and the crust next time. So somewhat related is I made demi baguettes with my friend. She and her husband visit us in Seattle, and she booked an online course from the King Arthur Baking Company where we learned how to make these baguettes. It was a 3-hour class and I learned a lot. I have like a little page in my notebook of the notes that I took. One of the notes was with the shaping, like if your dough isn't cooperating, basically if it's not becoming the shape that you want it to be or the length that you want it to be, you could try letting it rest so the gluten can relax before shaping it again. And then I also learned that crust forms when you put the dough in the oven and then the moisture wants to escape, and so you can prevent crust from forming too quickly by adding moisture into your oven. So that's why with this one, sometimes you'll see like you'll add steam into your oven or like spray water, but for this one we added boiling water, so it added more steam. So this recipe actually is really good. I have made it like 2 or 3 more times since then, and you'll see that in future videos. And then on this day, we ate them with a soup that my friend made, and then also some yummy butter that we got from the grocery store. Good. So now a couple of bonus bakes. These aren't bread bakes, but I wanted to share these with you all because I made them this month. So first were these coconut macaroon bars, which is a recipe from Claire Saffitz's second book, What's for Dessert. And I love them. They tasted just like these coconut macaroons that I made with my mom while growing up, so I have to make them for her when she visits. Second was this tiramisu icebox cake. It's also from What's for Dessert. and it was a success, and it was also very, very good. And then third are these oat and almond brittle cookies, but this is also from Dessert Person, but I altered it because I'm allergic to pecans, so instead I use almonds. And I love making them and then freezing the cookie dough so that we could just have like freshly baked cookies whenever we have people over or if we're just craving a cookie. Alrighty, now progress report time for January. See how I tracked with this goal, monthly goals update. The first week, January 1 to 4, was a success. The second week, January 5 to 11, also a success. I made that horrible sandwich loaf. And then the third week actually was a fail. I know. On January 12th, I planned to make English muffins, or like the dough for the next day's breakfast. But we played Settlers of Catan with my brother-in-law and his girlfriend, and we just ended pretty late. I was too tired to make the dough, but we already planned to make these sandwiches, so Anthony just went and got English muffins from the grocery store. But we will still continue with this challenge. Week 4, January 19 to 25, I really turned it around, and that's kind of when I decided to document this whole process. And so I kind of went ham with all the bakes, and that's everything that I made in my previous video. The last week of January was also a success. We didn't buy anything from the grocery store, but I didn't bake anything that week. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.